The top 10 rarest lords to encounter in Marvel Rivals. This is going to be the start of a new series where I go over different top 10 videos, different aspects of the game, and it's just meant to be entertaining and fun. I know these videos are often subjective to your own opinion. Everyone experiences the game in their own way, depending on how they play, their skill level, the different characters they play, so I know not everyone's always going to agree on these things, but I did my best to be as accurate as possible going by my own experience as somebody that's been playing this game nearly every day since it came out, but also doing research online, different communities, comment sections, for both PC and console, trying to gather the most consistency that I could. And I'm fully aware that a common lord has a lot to do with a character's application, if they're good on both offense and defense. This will lead to their pick rate being much higher and making the character more commonly used. I'm obviously going to exclude Angela for the time being because Angela was released not that long ago. It makes sense for this lord to be rare. So with that said, here are the 10 rarest lords to encounter in Marvel Rivals. Coming in at number 10 is Captain America. It's a pretty rare treat to run into a Cap Lord.
You're on a mission, you get the job done, okay? I stormed Normandy. I fought the Nazis. You wanna know what I do when I'm sad or scared? Fucking nothing. Cause I'm not a fucking pussy.
And honestly, when you do, they're usually a complete nightmare to deal with, even with his survivability being nerfed. Running into one of these guys sucks. It's not to say that you can't win against them, but it's going to be a slog for everyone. Captain America lords are some of the most loyal lords in the game to the character, and that's precisely why Cap is an uncommon lord. It requires a lot of dedication to the character. He's pretty difficult to use effectively. Anyone can pick him up, run around and jump around and survive. But to actually get kills and make your presence known, not just punching people with your pillow hands, is a different story. Since true Captain America lords can easily get picks if you're not careful, and they mastered his animation cancels. Overall, just a fun one to run into. I've been stuck on Captain America Centurion level for quite some time now. I'm finding him to be the most difficult lord I've ever tried to get. At number 9, it's going to be Ultron. Similar to Captain America, I think there's a huge difference between people that flex or play Ultron if they're forced to play healer than a true Ultron lord or main. And I don't find myself running into an Ultron lord very often. And the ones that you do, it feels more like you're playing against a DPS main that finally has a character they don't mind flexing as healer. Another big reason I think Ultron's a pretty rare lord to run into is because people that have been playing this game a long enough time now have already mastered and learned the healers they're comfortable with. And Ultron plays completely different from that. You can easily flex a cloak and dagger, a rocket. If you've taken the time to learn Adam or Loki, you're probably not going to flex off that character if you have to play healer. So Ultron is definitely a pretty niche lord. Coming in at number 8, and one that I always love seeing on my team but absolutely hate playing against, is Storm. It's rare enough to find a good Storm player as it is, let alone a Lord Storm. This one is only at number 8 because the higher you climb in meta, the more common this lord will be. Mind you, that could be true for everyone. Considering the higher up you go in ranked, when you get to top 500 in pro play, you're more or less encountering people that play this game for a living on a daily basis. So they probably have every character they play a lot unlocked in Lord. Overall, just an incredibly rare lord to find, and it's always a treat. At number 7, we have the Hulk. If it wasn't for Hulk being a tank, I think he would probably crack the top 5. But in this game where we lack tanks and it's common to solo tank, you kinda have to commit to 1 or 2 different tanks. Pair that with the fact that Hulk has some pretty good team-ups with now Black Panther, but Namor mainly, and he used to have a pretty good team-up with Doctor Strange and Iron Man. Hulk was somebody that a lot of people at least forced themselves to pick up, maybe stuck with the character and eventually lorded him. And let me tell you, these guys are a menace. A little spoilers for my next video, but they scare the shit out of me. They are a living nightmare to deal with. Actually, I had a game recently where I was playing Angela and one just clapped me out of the air, stunned me, and was taunting me. I couldn't do a goddamn thing about it. Coming in at number 6 is the only lord I actually have in this video, and that's Psylocke. Besides trying to get Cap, this was by far the hardest lord I ever had to get. And I have 7 lord characters myself. Psylocke requires a ton of dedication and skill. The biggest thing that holds me back from being a truly great Psylocke in my opinion is the fact that I should dedicate more time to this character specifically. Season 3 I finally buckled down and actually played Psylocke as one of my main characters on a very consistent basis, and I had really good results with it, and I was getting so much better with the character. Can't say the same for Cloak and Dagger though. But that's exactly the point. If I were to try to play Psylocke right now, I'd probably be pretty terrible. And that pretty much goes for most characters in this video. They're characters that require a ton of practice on a consistent basis. If you don't play these characters for a while, you kinda lose it. But I'm somebody that likes to switch and flex a lot of different characters, so by the time I'm ready to play Psylocke again, I'm pretty rusty, and it takes me a few games to get back into the swing of things. You have to be very precise and on point with how you get kills with her, aiming with her, especially with the nerfs now, and you honestly really don't see this lord a lot. Probably due to the fact that people get frustrated with her before they really take the time to master her. And because she's very situational in when you use her. If you're just playing random matches it doesn't matter, but she's really not practical on defense. And because she's situational, she's not going to get used all that frequently. That being said, I know especially last season she was a very popular pick in high elo. Almost a go-to pick in every single match in competitive, but top 500 and pro play take up a very small amount of the entire vast majority of the player base. So overall I think she's a very uncommon lord. Coming in at number 5, I'm gonna go with Hawkeye. The reason it's Hawkeye is because, well, especially for me on console, you barely ever see this lord. You will see enough Hela lords, Punisher lords, or other hit scans. Hawkeye is very rare, even in higher elo, in professional play on PC. Most times, if someone wants to have a cracked out hit scan character, they'll pick Hela. She's a much more practical choice in more applications. And Hawkeye himself has taken a bit of a dip in the last 2 patches. But on the off chance you do run into one of these lords, it's always a treat and it's usually terrifying. Coming in at number 4, which I think this pick is somewhat of a cop-out, but at the same time makes perfect sense, is Phoenix. Phoenix, in my own personal opinion, is the rarest lord I can find. I never see this lord. I might have seen it once since I've been playing since she's been out. And she's been out quite a while now, since the beginning of Season 3, which is more than enough time to see a bunch of them. To put it in perspective, I've seen non-stop Blade within a week or 2 of his release, and I see them almost every day or every other day. But because Phoenix is still a relatively new character, I can't rank her any higher than the number 4 spot. Not only is this lord one of the rarest in the game, but it's one of the coolest in my opinion. That paired with the fact that Phoenix is a pretty hard character to master in both skill and aim. Most people that try this character and play her for a while will get frustrated whenever they're playing good opponents that counter them, or don't have the patience to learn her properly. And for those that have already mastered hit scan characters, yeah, Phoenix is a nice flex choice, but they're already locked in with somebody like Hela, that they're already dialed in with and more comfortable with. Coming in at number 3 is Mr. Fantastic. It is incredibly rare to see this lord, you almost never do. Even on console where I play, where melee characters are more common, and hit scan characters take a bit of a dive. You still almost never see this character for multiple reasons. He only really had 1/2 of a patch that he was really strong meta and relevant. That's not to say there aren't some terrifying Mr. Fantastic mains out there though. He's just an incredibly rare niche type of character that a certain amount of people dedicated themselves to, but the vast majority of people that flex multiple characters don't really bother with him unless he's meta. Mr. Fantastic is also not as polarizing like Iron Fist or BP Spider-Man, despite some of them not being meta either right now. Mr. Fantastic is always going to be this very awkward limbo pseudo tank that in the right hands can be one of the most irritating and frustrating characters to play against, but it's not going to be very common you do, let alone a lord. And for people that want to play anti-dive or brawl out and help their healers, there's way better options like Bucky or Namor, especially with the team-ups. It also really doesn't help that Mr. Fantastic's ult is buns, and that's gonna take the number 3 spot. Coming in at the number 2 spot is Adam Warlock. The interesting thing about Marvel Rivals is you can win a game without any tanks, 1 tank, 2 tank, 3 tanks, 4 DPS, but you kind of need at least 2 healers. So most people will have at least 1 or 2 Lord healers by now in the game's lifespan. But by far out of all the healers in the game, Adam Warlock is probably the hardest and most rare Lord to find. But holy shit, they are a beautiful thing to watch in action. Off the top of my head, I can't say I've ever seen an Adam Warlock Lord that was bad. Maybe they had a somewhat bad game or bad teammates, but I've never seen them not absolutely beaming you and deleting you. Kinda think that's the whole point and why it's a hard Lord to find. In a game with Spider-Man, Black Panther, Iron Fist, Magic, Cap, Venom, it's usually a pretty safe pick to pick Cloak and Dagger, Invisible Woman, Rocket, even Loki's a pretty common one. Loki and Luna last season were the go-to pair in competitive and higher elo. Adam Warlock was kind of an awkward strategist because in the right hands he's incredibly capable, but you have to master the character. More times than not, people will try this character and give up on him. And the ones that truly master him, although they're great, there are better meta options, especially in a game where healers are so effective and important, especially those healer ults. And although Adam Warlock has an incredibly cool ultimate, it's just not as practical as a healer ult. So despite this character being out at launch in Season 0, he's still and always will be an incredibly hard and rare Lord to find. Before I talk about the number 1 spot, here are some honorable mentions that could have easily been in the video at some point, but didn't quite make the cut. Hela, especially on console, in lower elo where the vast majority of the player base is, but out of the hitscan characters I found that Hela is more common than the other ones I listed, hence why she didn't make the video. Iron Fist, despite having a very loyal group of people that main this character, is still a pretty rare one to find. Human Torch is also not one you find all that much, but Human Torch is also really good this season right now, and he was a couple seasons ago before he got nerfed, so he kinda comes in droves where people that play meta characters really play this character a lot. And of course, the Wolverine. The Wolverine Lord is common enough because Wolverine's one of the main tank counters for Groot, Penny, pretty much any tank that you want to shred out of existence, but Wolverine has also been an off and on again ban, especially with the Phoenix team up introduced, and I remember back in Season 1 and 2, he was banned almost every game. I actually forgot to mention this during the Hulk portion of the video, but that is another contributing factor for why Hulk is also a pretty rare one to find because he's banned a lot too every season, off and on again, which means Hulk players don't get to play him as often as everyone else gets to play their mains. But with all that being said, the rarest Lord in Marvel Rivals, and this one feels like a cop-out but it's true, Black Widow. Besides people that are 100% dedicated to the character, you're not going to see this Lord almost ever. Black Widow is probably the hardest character in the game to use, being that she's the weakest character pound for pound, and she requires a very specific situation to play her. The only times a Black Widow will truly thrive is if 1, the Black Widow player is absolutely cracked out of their minds, or B, the Black Widow player is just playing against people that are generally not as good at the game, meaning that whatever character that player played would be better no matter what. But very few people flex this character, and if they do, we all know why. We don't need to say it, we know. For the ones that do decide to lord this character and fully dedicate themselves at being Black Widow one-tricks or mains, they are not to be taken lightly. Black Widow is the weakest character and can be countered, but I have been personally absolutely deleted within a second of coming close to one before. They are out there and they're dangerous. If somebody's gonna dedicate their time and energy to get this character lord, they went through the trenches to get this far. So you better believe they're gonna have an answer for whatever you can throw at them. And that is the top 10 rarest lords in Marvel Rivals. Do you agree with me? disagree with me, like I said, at the end of the day, not everyone's going to agree on these videos wholeheartedly. There's always going to be a bit of debate, so by all means, let me know your top 10 list based on your own experience. There's no right or wrong answers, and at the end of the day, these videos are just meant to have fun with the game and enjoy the game. But if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe to get more content like this, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.